Where is the location of the lost Sphinx of the Giza Plateau? Experts claim that there was a second Sphinx near the pyramids, and this is what usually was the case. They didn't have one Sphinx, they would have two. Humans Are Free reports the meticulous analysis of ancient Egyptian history, study of archaeological evidence indicate there were two sphinxes located at the Giza Plateau near the pyramids, argues a researcher who spent more than a decade searching for the lost second sphinx. He says, have you ever seen just one sphinx in later Egypt that did not have another? Well, that's not so. There were always two. Not only did the ancient Egyptians mention the second sphinx, but also the ancient Greeks, Romans, and even Muslims, but it was destroyed between 1000 and 1200 AD, covered by tons of stone and sand. Well hidden under the Giza Plateau lies one of the greatest mysteries of ancient Egypt, the second Sphinx of Giza, an ancient monument that accompanied the one still standing today. Now, this is a picture of the second Sphinx near the first Sphinx of Giza. As you can see, this was definitely once a Sphinx with a head, although in bad shape. Kindly support my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. Now, the second Sphinx of Giza, the ancient monument that accompanied the one still standing today, it seems to have disappeared under the strange circumstances, but not without leaving us with details that suggest it was as real as the great Sphinx standing guarding near the pyramids of Giza today. This is not something an author came up with, but it was what Bassam el-Shama'ah thinks, an Egyptologist and scholar who has been tracking the lost Sphinx for more than a decade. But based on what he does think, there was a second Sphinx at the Giza Plateau. Well, first of all, when you think about the ancient history of Egypt and the sphinxes that have been found across Egypt, you will always find evidence of duality, and that all other sphinxes found in Egypt came in pairs. So the fact that the Sphinx at the Giza Plateau is alone can be considered as an anomaly. There should be a second Sphinx. That's exactly what el-Shama'ah thinks, as the idea of two sphinxes existing is more in line with ancient Egyptian beliefs, which are mostly based on duality, but the entire evidence is not based just on that fact. Anyway, in order to come to this controversial conclusion, throughout his years of work, el-Shama'ah has obtained innumerable ancient texts, archaeological data, and even an unusual satellite taken by NASA, that seems to corroborate his hypothesis. El-Shama'ah said every time we have to deal with a solar cult, we should discuss one of lion and one lioness facing each other, posing parallel to each other, or sitting in a back-to-back position, he said. The Egyptologists point towards the Egyptian creation myth, where the almighty Atum gives birth to his son Shu and his daughter Tefnut, curiously in the form of a lion and lioness. The controversial expert also points out the dream stela, believed to have been carved by Tutmosis IV, located between the paws of the great Sphinx, which clearly depicts two sphinxes. So the second Sphinx of Giza may have been carved in the form of a lioness, but what happened to the monument? El-Shama'ah believes powerful lightning struck the lioness millennia ago and destroyed it. That could be so. According to the researcher, the definitive documentary evidence is found in the pyramid texts. There we can read in the words of the creator god Tuna, quote, "I was with two, now I am with one," end quote. Something terrible must have happened. The theory of the second Sphinx not only has documentary evidence based on the analysis of the texts and the iconographic representations of the ancient Egyptians, Bassam also has provided material evidence from NASA's most up-to-date photographic analysis. Thanks to the SEER-XSAR photographic study of the American Aerospace Agency, it has been possible to analyze the density of the geological layers that make up the ground and the monuments of the Giza Plateau. So with this photograph, we can actually see that the area where Bassan said his second Sphinx was located, there really was a structure that NASA colored in yellow. This signal, Bassan says, is usually received in the form of pulses of a given wavelength ranging from 1 centimeter to 1 meter and corresponding to a frequency range of about 300 megahertz to up to 30 gigahertz. It produced echoes which become digital information that is then projected onto an image. This is composed of numerous points or pictograph elements, each of which represents a specific place scanning on the ground by the radar. In the case of my working hypothesis, they correspond to the remains of the second Sphinx, he said. This Endeavour satellite image released by NASA just above the Pyramids Plateau confirmed the discovery, but it makes a lot of sense that lightning could have damaged the Sphinx due to the fact that the monument was often depicted with a double metal crown that must have conducted the shock to the neck. This is what El Shama explains. The Pyramids of Giza predate the mysterious utterance recovered at Saqqara, but the lion deities are pre-dynastic, and the construction of the pyramids must have been inspired by those mythological figures which had always appeared in duo. Archaeologist Michael Poe seems to agree with El Shama, as he is also convinced there was a second Sphinx at Giza. Poe argues that there is no evidence of Khafre repairing the Great Sphinx and that there are ancient texts that corroborate his theory. Poe wrote, "This is currently absolutely there is no archaeological evidence of Khafre repairing the Sphinx. There are two ancient Egyptian references, both during the Middle Kingdom at a considerably later time. One is, has it that Khafre found the Sphinx, which would support the Sphinx is older than Khafre, and that Khafre altered its face. This same source, fragmentary papyrus, states that there was another Sphinx facing this one on the other side of the River Nile, and both of the monuments were constructed here to represent the dividing line between northern and southern Egypt. The other reference said that Khafre built the Sphinx. Have you ever seen only one Sphinx in latter Egypt that did not have another? Not only did the ancient Egyptians mention the second Sphinx, but so did the Greeks, the Romans, and Muslims. It was destroyed between 1000 and 1200 AD. At the access to buildings and temples, there are two sphinxes side by side, but on the avenue or approach to the temple, they are facing each other. At times, they may have as much as 100 or so facing each other in avenue. The Nile is Egypt's avenue, and it divides the north and south. Countless ancient writings about the two sphinxes suggest that they were facing one another. The second one, by the way, was partly demolished during a high Nile flood, and then completely destroyed by ensuing Muslims carting it off to rebuild their villages, concluded Poe. And as we keep digging, we find more evidence of possible second Sphinx. Authors Graham Hancock and Robert Bouval also seem to agree about the second Sphinx existing at the Giza Plateau, and in their book, The Message of the Sphinx, they maintain that the Sphinx was made to represent Atum Hermakis. After having demonstrated on paper the suggestive possibility, thanks to an exhaustive research work that has been taken more than a decade, the only thing left for El Shama is to obtain an excavation permit that will help him demonstrate whether or not there is another Sphinx next to the Great Sphinx of Giza of more than 5,000 years ago. This is by reference Ancient Code, and it's on Humans Are Free. Thank you for your support, and please leave your comments. Thank you.